Do you remember a time when cartoons sold cigarettes to kids and your favorite superhero solved every problem with a sugary snack cake? Welcome back to the 1980s, a decade of incredible pop culture, but also a time of some truly offensive ideas that would be canceled in a heartbeat today. So if you're ready to look back and say, they really did that? Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button now, because we're about to dive into the culture of the 80s that just didn't age well. Joe Camel. If the 1980s had a face for cool, it was Joe Camel. Slick sunglasses, a leather jacket, and more swagger than a rock band on tour, all wrapped up in a cartoon camel form. Joe was the animated bad boy of cigarette advertising, plastered across billboards, posters, and vending machines. You'd walk past a convenience store and bam, there he was, staring you down with a cigarette hanging from his mouth. And that was the problem. Joe Camel was so smooth, so fun, so cool, that kids actually started to believe cigarettes were the ticket to growing up fast. Studies even showed that children recognized Joe Camel more than Mickey Mouse. That is not a joke. By the mid-90s, Joe Camel was finally retired. Honestly, who thought the way to promote lung cancer was a talking camel in Ray-Bans? Michael Jackson's Pepsi commercial. In 1984, Pepsi decided to film one of its most high-profile ads ever. The scene, Michael Jackson performing with his brothers on stage, with fireworks going off like the 4th of July. What could go wrong? Everything. During one explosive take, the pyrotechnics went off too early, right over Michael's head, and his hair caught fire in front of a live audience. For several seconds, no one noticed. He kept dancing. By the time crew members rushed to him, he had already suffered second and third-degree burns to his scalp. The incident became a defining moment in both advertising and celebrity safety protocols. As you can imagine, the commercial was banned from ever airing again. If there was a lesson learned here, it's this: maybe don't set your global superstar on fire to sell soda. Coked up cereal mascots. Okay, maybe they weren't literally coked up, but have you seen those cereal mascots from the 1980s? They were operating on a different frequency. Toucan Sam, the Trix Rabbit, Sugar Bear, they all looked like they had just chugged 12 espresso shots in a glitter milkshake. The animation style was chaotic. The pacing was blistering. The message? Eat sugar, and your life becomes a technicolor fantasy. Eventually, watchdog groups stepped in, banning a bunch of these ads, or forcing them to tone down the hyperactivity. Gone were the days of wild-eyed mascots screaming about marshmallows. Now they just quietly suggest being part of this balanced breakfast. Smoking puppets on kids' shows. This one sounds like satire, but trust me, it happened. Picture this: a colorful puppet on a children's show, complete with googly eyes and a fuzzy nose, casually lighting up a cigarette. Welcome to the 1980s, where kids' programming was a fever dream with no adult supervision. Some puppet characters were meant to be cool or rebellious, so naturally they smoked. One infamous show even had a puppet who blew smoke rings while giving out advice. The backlash came fast and hard, and within a few years, any puppet caught with a cigarette on television was pulled from programming entirely. There is a generation of adults who remember learning how to spell and inhale from the same fuzzy character. Drug dealer board games. Believe it or not, some of the most inappropriate board games ever created were being marketed during family game night in the 1980s. Titles like Drug Dealer and Cocaine King were sold at novelty shops and occasionally in regular toy aisles. The gameplay? You guessed it. Players competed to build empires based on illegal narcotics. It didn't take long for word to spread and watchdog groups to freak out. School boards, local governments, and even police departments called for immediate bans. Imagine learning about capitalism and cocaine on the same game night, only in the 1980s. Smoking in arcades. Imagine this. You are 10 years old, clutching a sweaty roll of quarters, and the only thing between you and Pac-Man glory is a wall of cigarette smoke. Welcome to the 1980s arcade experience. Back then, smoking areas were everywhere, even in places designed for kids. In many arcades, there was no separation between the grown-ups puffing away and the children playing Donkey Kong. Sometimes, the ashtrays were built right into the arcade cabinets. The idea of indoor smoking was so normal that even Chuck E. Cheese had smoking zones. But once studies started linking secondhand smoke to major health risks, the laws were passed and the haze finally cleared. That was peak arcade culture, and probably why your jacket always smelled like a roadside diner. Garbage pail kids. You could not walk down a school hallway in the 1980s without seeing someone flipping through a pack of garbage pail kids. These were not just trading cards. They were grotesque masterpieces of booger-filled, vomit-splattered, toilet-themed chaos, and we loved them. Each card featured a horribly disfigured child doing something unspeakable. They were the anti-Cabbage Patch Kids, disturbing, hilarious, and aggressively banned from classrooms across the country. Parents hated them. Teachers hated them. But kids? We could not get enough. Banning them only made them cooler. Offensive joke books. Kids' joke books in the 1980s were like candy, brightly colored, cheaply made, and full of stuff that would get you canceled today. These things sat on every drugstore checkout rack, disguised as harmless fun. But crack one open and you would find a minefield of racial stereotypes, sexist jokes, and lines so wildly inappropriate they would make your aunt clutch her pearls. Eventually, the backlash came. Schools banned them, libraries quietly removed them, and publishers rebranded with safer content. Say what you will, but the 1980s really took off-color humor and ran with it straight into detention. Superhero Hostess ads. You might remember the ads. A random villain appears, maybe a swamp monster. The hero shows up, Spider-Man or Batman, and instead of fighting, they pull out a Hostess fruit pie. Cue the monster's sudden change of heart. These comic book ads were everywhere in the 1980s. The problem? They used our most beloved heroes to aggressively market sugary, unhealthy snack cakes directly to kids. Eventually, public pressure forced a wave of ad reform, and food companies could no longer use superheroes to promote these kinds of snacks. The time when Captain America's greatest superpower was defeating evil with a cream-filled pastry. Unhealthy school lunches. If you opened a lunch tray in the 1980s, the entree was just a formality. The real star was dessert. We are talking pudding cups, sugar-glazed fruit pies, and chocolate milk, so sweet it could be mistaken for a melted candy bar. Some schools even served actual cake with rainbow sprinkles as a side dish. The result? Kids were bouncing off the walls by second period and crashing hard by gym class. Eventually, nutritionists crashed the party. Studies linked childhood obesity to school lunches, and the sugar got scaled back. If you grew up in the sugar-fueled cafeterias of the 1980s, you lived the sugar crash, and somehow, you still passed math. From cartoon camels selling cigarettes to board games about drug lords, the culture of the 1980s was a wild ride. It's a powerful reminder that what's considered normal can change in a flash. What's the one canceled piece of 80s culture that you remember most? Let us know in the comments below. And if this trip down a very questionable memory lane made you laugh, please give it a like and subscribe for more.